new Xbox Series X specs, and much more. Let's get into it. What is going on, guys? The dealer back again with yet another video talking about the Xbox Series X dashboard, officially confirmed and detailed by Microsoft. We've got that and some increasingly more interesting Xbox Series X specs being revealed by Microsoft as well. But hey, if you end up liking the video, hit the like button, show a buddy or two, subscribe for all of the latest and greatest, and I guess we could, let's talk about it. So they did release this dashboard video showing off first and foremost seizure-inducing live backgrounds for your Xbox. They also talked about how these themes and the way this box is going to work is meant to make the things easier on the user. Go figure. First and foremost, though, speed. It is the key emphasis here, and expect dramatic leaps in speed. Despite all of these random websites spewing out percentages, long story short, imagine your dashboard running off of an SSD. If you have a PC that does this, you understand the kind of responsiveness, the quickness that you can expect. No percentage can really put that into perspective. They also talk about how you can do a lot of messaging from your phone, and it's all connected and integrated. It scales across different devices, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, the design language of this background in this dashboard does really harken back to, well, the one we've had for years. This is not something that's going to blow your mind out the back of your skull, really, but honestly, it's going to be nice to have an SSD at the root of the dashboard. The boot up sequence for the box is both beautiful and lightning fast, a few seconds from a cold boot to your dashboard. Personally, I am looking forward to that speed boost, and it is by far the biggest benefit you will notice from this new dash. And don't forget, with Xbox Series X and really no other system in the history of gaming can you have multiple games basically run and suspend at the same time. So you may jump into Forza, you may jump into Hellblade, you may jump into State of Decay 2, Gears of War, have all of these different games suspended at the same time, and it does that with the SSD and the velocity architecture. It's not running them at the same time, but it is an instant freeze suspend state for each game. They can then very quickly access that data, spool the game back up, and you know what? I think it's genius. It's really going to help some people out there. That's all well and good, but what about the performance of Xbox Series X from the Hot Chips event? I've had so many DMs asking me to cover this, and honestly, guys, I didn't jump right on this because it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The expectations of performance are pretty much exactly where they have always been, and they are really comparing ray tracing boosts and all of this other stuff that we can't really compare to much else because the metrics they use are not being used by anyone else, including NVIDIA, and there are no prior generations of AMD ray tracing to compare these things to. There are no cards out right now that we can say, oh, it uses 300 million giga rays per second. That's enough to send my car back through time. So this is why I really haven't jumped on this. At the end of the day, expect 2080 super power. At the end of the day, expect some pretty good ray tracing, maybe even better than expected initially, but maybe not, depending on certain metrics here. But I will cover what this article is saying and kind of give my thoughts on maybe some of the improvements, the machine learning, etc. But again, improvements from what, right? So we'll get into it. Xbox Series X gets ray tracing and machine learning specs, boasting 3 to 10 times performance over a toaster. I kid, honestly. This is a very phenomenally capable console, by far more capable than anyone out there had ever guessed or assumed or predicted, even myself. I mean, when you're talking about all this raw power on top of this kind of ray tracing, machine learning, VRS, all of these intelligent rendering features, absolutely absurd what kind of power Microsoft are packing into this box. And what's even more absurd is you still got people out there tweeting about how this is not an efficient machine, how PlayStation are taking an efficiency route, when in fact PlayStation are doing the opposite of efficiency. Though a capable machine for what is hopefully $400, when you overclock stuff, that's not the way you are efficient, okay? It's a very inefficient use of power, wattage, voltage. You then have to be inefficient to cool that machine, and ultimately there are a ton of diminishing returns. As I mentioned almost a week ago in my last video, overclocking things does create diminishing returns. Microsoft are going the other route. They are summoning a larger army of workers, think of it that way, where each worker is moving a little bit slower, but overall the total amount of workers is outdoing the competition by a significant margin. Workers aka compute units, more units to make more things happen. They are doing this at a lower clock, they are doing this with less heat, and they are also doing this with a much bigger block of custom cores, ray tracing cores we'll call them, to handle the extra tasks that can also be used for audio, etc. A number of other things Microsoft have already confirmed. It is a very efficient box with a ton of power that then reminds you that we also have efficiency saving measures like VRS, we then have machine learning, we then have a built-in toaster and a sandwich maker, and it comes with a remote control can opener in the box as well. Honestly, all you guys out there talking about how I can't use 50% of its processing, and just shut up. Please do us all a favor. You guys sound stupid. Anybody who knows anything about this technology, they are laughing at you. They are laughing at you. And it's almost like you don't care. It's like you think you're in WWE. You're not. It's just one of those things where they're laughing at you because you don't understand. You didn't even know what ray tracing was 6 months ago. I guess I get tired of seeing these stupid idiots on Twitter. That's why I'm never on there. So again, I guess we could get into this article. Microsoft going into the hardware acceleration side of their graphics engine on Xbox Series X. Again, you didn't hear a lot of this with the PS5 because Sony literally told you didn't have to use ray tracing. I mean, yeah, we don't really, you don't got to worry about it. Both systems can do this kind of stuff, but really, one of them is going to be a lot better at ray tracing. So there are a ton of slides that came out of Hot Chips 2020 where they did discuss the architecture of the Xbox Series X. And one thing is sure, some of the metrics they gave are impressive even compared to high-end NVIDIA graphics cards, though I must note that they did give a different metric than NVIDIA does give. NVIDIA gives more of a, hey, this is kind of the common throughput for our ray tracing, 10, 11 gigaраys per second. Microsoft over here climbing a mountain, jumping off with a parachute, and then skiing down it with Pierce Brosnan from 007. They're talking about 300 something gigaраys per second. They're using different metrics, but one thing is for sure, this is very impressive no matter how you want to cut these metrics. The article says, in a separate slide titled Other Tricks, Microsoft does go into detail about machine learning. It does confirm that inference acceleration hardware is available for the Xbox Series X resolution. Basically, they can use machine learning to increase resolution of certain things in games or entire screen buffers, I would imagine. I'm not even going to pretend to know what some of this means because I am not a game developer, but I do know what DLSS is, and they basically do confirm DLSS for Xbox Series X, or an advanced AI-driven up-resing technique that does actually basically think of it as Microsoft's version of DLSS or AMD's version of DLSS that Microsoft are then using their custom silicon to improve or get even more out of. Again, DLSS is basically the equivalent to a checkerboarding solution, though maybe not technically checkerboarding. It does up-res, lower-res images and use an AI learning pool to fill in the gaps using reference images. And I did a whole video on this with a PlayStation 5. I told you that Microsoft had the equivalent, AMD had an equivalent, everyone has an equivalent, game engines have an equivalent, McDonald's has an equivalent. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day because they're all going to be very similar, and I expect all of them to improve throughout the entire generation. Checkerboarding has gotten so good, or reconstruction techniques like this have gotten so good, that it really doesn't matter if something's checkerboarded anymore, especially once they started checkerboarding at the beginning of the pipeline and then putting post-processing effects, etc. on top of that. You got a lot less of that dithering effect. The image looks a lot more crisp. Long story short, again, Xbox Series X will have a DLSS solution because AMD have a DLSS solution in the works. Xbox have used some foresight here and said, hey, we're going to incorporate some of these things like integers, etc., some things I don't even fully understand, and we're going to use that for AMD's custom DLSS technology and make our own version of that to improve and leverage our silicon to get the best reconstruction we can possibly get. Microsoft have done this across the board. That's why this efficiency talk is ridiculous. They are not only vastly more powerful, but also have more efficiency saving measures than any other console this year. Long story short, Microsoft are incorporating machine learning to a big degree. It is one of the key future technologies across all systems. Microsoft also apparently have some very, very good efficiencies in ray tracing that no, PS5 will not be able to match. Sorry. I'm going to get both systems at launch. I'm going to play both systems at launch. I am excited for the games that both of them will eventually drop, but I will not lie to you about the performance delta. Never have, never will. There's a reason that I think you should be paying more for one over the other, though Sony do have a way more expensive SSD, probably the most expensive part in that whole box, and that may balance out the price. It's just too bad that it will not be leveraged on anything that is a multi-plat game, because at the end of the day, you cannot change game design for an SSD when that same game is built to run on a mechanical slow drive on the PC. Even if it's built for a regular NVMe SSD on the PC, that NVMe is still not quick enough to match the PS5's NVMe, meaning you can't really elevate your game design to leverage the PS5 SSD truly to its maximum, meaning that any third-party game, any multi-plat game, is just going to give you slightly better load times, meaning that I do not understand why they put so much money into this SSD instead of making, a little bit more money or getting the price lower on the cost side of things. But let me know your thoughts on this crap. Obviously, it's complicated. I understand there's probably some mad people in the chat. I don't really care. Guys, if you're not angry, let me know. If you're angry, let me know. If you enjoyed the video, let me know. If you hit the retweet, let me know. If you hit the like button, let me know. Let me know your thoughts on the hardware, the tech, all that good stuff. Subscribe for more. And as always, guys, you guys rock. Thanks for everyone that supports the channel, the patrons, the channel members. You guys are amazing. And again, I will see you guys in the next one. I'm Dealer. I'm out.